The first sign of getting weaker after 50 may not feel like weakness at all. It may feel like caution, a pause, a second thought, a quiet moment where your body asks for permission before it moves. That is why so many people miss it. They are waiting for something obvious, pain, a fall, a diagnosis. But sometimes the first sign is much smaller. You stand up from your favorite chair and you do not feel weak, you just need one extra push. You walk toward the stairs and you do not feel afraid, you just pause before the first step. You carry groceries from the car and you do not feel injured, you just notice the kitchen feels farther away than it used to. That is the strange part. The body can start feeling less automatic before you ever call it weakness. Not because you are broken, not because you are lazy, and not because everything is suddenly failing, but because certain strength patterns may not be as practiced, as clear, or as responsive as they used to be. So the body begins to negotiate with the chair, with the stairs, with the floor, with movements that once happened without any planning at all. And one day, the uncomfortable truth becomes hard to ignore. You are not moving badly, you are moving consciously. And when a movement that used to be automatic becomes conscious, the body may be telling you something worth listening to. The signal is not gone, it may just be getting quieter, and today, we are going to practice making that signal clearer again. If you want calm, practical movement education like this, subscribe to MyoSci Lab so I can keep making videos for you. Welcome to MyoSci Lab. Before we begin, this video is for education only and is not medical advice. Move slowly, stop immediately if anything feels painful or unsafe, and check with your doctor if you have a medical condition. This is not about reversing aging overnight. As general guidance, the CDC recommends muscle strengthening activities at least 2 days a week, working the major muscle groups. And the National Institute on Aging, part of the NIH, notes that researchers have studied strength training for decades as one way to support healthier bodies as we age. So today, we are going to use that general idea through 5 simple movements for the legs, hips, core, and upper body. Not to punish the body, not to chase intensity, but to support control through quiet, consistent practice, one movement at a time. To make that quiet signal clearer again, we'll start with one movement you already use dozens of times a day, sitting down and standing back up. The first movement is the intentional chair squat. But when you hear the word squat, don't picture heavy weights, mirrors, or a crowded gym. Think of this as relearning one of the most important movements of daily life. Because this is where the body often starts to find shortcuts. Maybe you've noticed it. The shoulders rock forward before standing, the hands press harder into the armrests, the chest swings ahead, and before the legs really have to do the work, momentum has already helped you escape the chair. That doesn't mean your body is failing. It simply means the movement has become less clear than it used to be. So let's slow that moment down. Stand in front of a sturdy chair with the chair behind you. Place your feet about shoulder width apart. Keep your toes mostly forward or slightly turned out if that feels better for your hips. Reach your arms forward for balance, or keep your hands lightly on the armrests if you need support. Before you bend your knees, send your hips back a little, as if you're looking for the chair behind you. Now breathe in as you lower slowly. Let your knees follow the same direction as your toes. Don't let them collapse inward. Touch the chair so lightly that you almost make no sound. No dropping, no crashing. Pause for 1 second. Then breathe out as you press both feet into the floor and stand back up slowly. Try not to throw your chest forward. Try not to bounce yourself up. Let your thighs and glutes join the movement. You can begin with 2 careful sets of 10. If that feels too hard, use the armrests and make the range smaller. If it feels too easy, hold a light object close to your chest, only if it feels safe. The goal is not a deep squat. The goal is control. Because this kind of practice can show up when you rise from a low car seat, a soft couch, or a chair you used to trust without thinking. Not by forcing the body, but by reminding it how to press the floor away. Once your legs begin to remember how to press the floor away, the next place I like to look is the center of the body. The second movement is the modified crunch. But forget the idea of chasing a six-pack. After 50, I think of the core less like a vanity muscle and more like part of the body's natural support system. It helps organize your frame when you turn, reach, lift, roll in bed, or walk across the room. And when that middle area feels less responsive, other places may start doing extra work. The neck tightens, the shoulders brace, the lower back tries to help more than it should. So we are not going to punish the spine with a big crunch. We are going to make the signal small and clear. Lie on your back on the floor, on a mat, or on your bed. Bend your knees. Place both feet flat, about hip-width apart. Rest your hands on your thighs. Take a slow breath in. As you breathe out, gently draw your lower belly inward. You are not sucking your stomach in. You are creating a quiet wall of firmness. You may feel your low back become slightly heavier against the floor or bed. Now, slide your hands lightly toward your knees. Let your shoulder blades lift just a little. Do not pull on your neck. Do not push your chin forward. Pause. Then lower slowly as you breathe in. For your first try, aim for 2 sets of 15. If that feels like too much, lift only 1 inch. A small movement done well is more useful than a big crunch you have to force. Because this kind of core practice may help everyday movement feel more supported, when you reach for something high, carry awkward groceries, or roll over in bed without asking your lower back to do everything alone. Once the center of the body feels a little more awake, I like to bring that support back into the legs, because real life almost never moves in perfect symmetry. The third movement is the reverse lunge. But this is not a test of how low you can go. And it is not a balance contest. It is a way to practice one leg supporting you while the other leg moves, because hidden inside every step is a tiny moment where one side of the body has to organize support before the other side moves forward, backward, or to the side. That moment shows up everywhere: stepping back from a door, turning in a narrow hallway, climbing stairs, stepping onto a curb. And this is where many people rush. They think a deeper lunge means a better lunge. But depth is not the goal here. Control is. Stand near a sturdy chair, counter, or wall so support is close. Place your feet about hip-width apart. Now step 1 foot backward, a little farther than a normal walking step. Keep your front foot flat on the floor. Let your back heel lift naturally. Breathe in as you slowly bend both knees and lower just a small amount. Your chest can lean forward slightly, but keep your back and neck moving together as one long line. Do not force the back knee toward the floor. Then breathe out as you press through the front foot and step back to the starting position. Switch sides. A good goal to start with is 1 set of 10 on each side. If your knees or hips feel sensitive, make it a mini lunge. Small is still useful. Let the movement teach control before it teaches depth, because this kind of one-sided control may help daily movement feel more prepared. When you step onto a curb, step backward quickly, or lower yourself toward the floor without immediately searching for something to grab. After practicing how one leg supports you, I like to move to the upper body, because strength after 50 is not only about walking, stairs, or the legs. The fourth movement is the wall push-up. And I like the wall because it removes the pressure to perform. You are not trying to prove you can do a floor push-up. You are practicing a pushing pattern your body still uses every day. Opening a heavy door, pushing yourself up from a counter, moving a box across a table. catching yourself gently with your hands when you lean forward. Stand facing a wall. Place your hands on the wall a little wider than your shoulders. Step your feet back just enough that your body leans forward slightly. Keep a long line from your head to your heels. Now breathe in as you slowly bend your elbows. Bring your chest a little closer to the wall. You do not need to touch it. Then breathe out as you press the wall away and return. Try to move as one piece. Do not lead with your head. Do not let your hips sag. You can start with 2 sets of 10. If the wall feels too easy, try a countertop. If that feels safe and controlled, you can move to a knee push-up on the floor. If your wrists or shoulders feel uncomfortable, reduce the range, stay with the wall version, or skip it for now. The goal is not a perfect push-up. The goal is familiar, controlled strength. Because when the upper body remembers how to push with control, everyday tasks can feel a little more supported. Opening a door, pressing up from a counter, or using your hands without asking the shoulders to fight through a movement they are not ready for. After the upper body has practiced pushing with control, I like to end by returning to the hips, because the hips quietly influence so many movements we care about. The 5th movement is the glute bridge. This one looks simple, but I pay close attention to it because the glutes are one of the strongest engines in the body. They help when you stand up, when you walk, when you climb stairs, when you get out of bed, and when the body needs support from behind. Lie on your back on the floor, on a mat, or on your bed. Bend your knees. Place your feet flat, about hip-width apart. Let your arms rest by your sides, palms down. Before you lift, gently tighten your middle, just enough to keep your lower back from taking over. Now breathe out as you press your heels into the floor and lift your hips a few inches. Think about squeezing your glutes, not arching your lower back. You do not need to lift high. You only need to lift with control. Pause for a moment, then breathe in as you slowly lower back down. A good starting goal is 2 sets of 10. If that feels like too much, do not lift yet. Just squeeze your glutes gently. Hold for a second, then relax. If the regular bridge feels easy and safe, you can try a single leg version, but only if your pelvis stays steady. These 5 movements are not magic. They are simply one way to keep the major muscle groups involved in daily movement. Start small. Stay consistent. Progress gradually. And if walking has started to feel shorter, slower, or less automatic, the next video looks at one small hip movement that may help you understand and support push-off when you walk.